right, so let's talk about the Fall 2 certification process, and we will pause again and answer questions as they come up. We'll designate a point in time, and then again, at the end of today's training, we'll take questions and release everyone who's good to go, because, you know, we get hungry and it's time to have a couple slices of pizza. So just to recap, right, we want to complete our submission. That's going to be the staff demographic, the SAS file, the course, the student course section enrollment, and the PSTS, the post-secondary status, right? This is an iterative process. We're going to submit all of these files. The details of each individual submission is provided in the data population trainings available on Bridge and YouTube. And that's going to also require us to resolve the validation errors along the way. When we've submitted all the files and we resolved all the validation errors, we've completed the submission. We're now ready to start the review of the certification details. And those details are broken down into the errors and warnings, right? So we're going to resolve the fatal errors and warnings. And the other half of that is the reports. And we need to check the reports for accuracy. That's using the supplemental and supporting reports to check the aggregate reports, which are those required to certify. So we're going to do those two activities after we've completed our submission. And then we're going to mark anything that looks good preliminarily in review, right? It's a functionality in the top right of certification detail screen that we can freeze a snapshot. This looks good. Then as we get feedback from our data stewards, because we don't review the reports on our own, we disseminate those out to the data stewards who have the intricate details of the students and the programs or the services or the courses or the staff members. We make our revisions by submitting more files and maybe doing a little bit of online manual maintenance. And then we're ready. When we have our final snapshot revision, we're going to certify it. And we're going to do all this well in advance of March 20th. And so, along this process, be familiar with these documents. Kyron mentioned them earlier. I think the valid code combinations and the error list. And then what you didn't see in the CalPADS user manual are the Fall 2 report mapping guides to help you understand how the reports are aggregated. The report mapping guide is something that you want to direct to your data stewards, so they're not just looking at numbers and totals. They can understand exactly how the counts are being added up. And so when Kyron's ready to take over, we'll go into the demonstration. And I'll read the chat box in the meantime. And so Jay Vega asks, for those itinerant teachers and courses, do we have to enroll students in that section or just have the teacher and section? So if your itinerant staff is not providing EL services, you do not have to enroll the students. If the teacher has the designation of itinerant, the job classification code 27, there won't be a fatal error that triggers if the students are not enrolled into the course. If you have a 12 designation or a 26, student enrollment is going to be expected in that course. If that itinerant teacher is providing EL instruction through the course, we need the education service code and we need the students to be associated to that service. So you will have to enroll students if the teacher is providing EL services. So Beth jumped over onto that one too. I see Kyron typed the answer in there.
Okay, thank you, Nate, for that. So Nate just mentioned the process of certification. So basically you submit your files. Once all of those files are posted in CalPADS, the next thing you need to do is check your certification, check if you have any certification errors. and review the report. So what are certification errors? And anyway, what's the difference between the CVR certification errors and the IVRs, which are the errors you normally encounter when submitting files? So IVRs are based on the records that you uploaded or posted in CalPAD. So CalPAD compares, basically validates those values you have in those files to based on the rules that have been established. And these are your IVRs. This could be your SDM errors, your SASS errors, CRSE errors. And so those are the IVRs. Now CVRs are basically records or errors triggered by the records already posted in CalPADS based on rules, on a different set of rules based on census day normally. Okay. So with that, let's go. Let's just assume that you've already posted your records, or let's say you are curious and wonder what your certification status is. Okay. So for those new users in CalPADS, you just go to certification status. And you should have your certification status LEA approval. Okay. So you have the fall one, and then let's just click on fall two. And so on the fall two status, just a quick question for those eagle-eyed LEAs. What is different in our fall two certification details? What compared to fall one? What is missing here? Okay, I can't see it. No SELPA approval. Yes, that's right. So for fall 2, you don't need the SELPA approval because there are no special ed related information that has to be submitted and accounted for. And yes, thank God for it, Joshua. Well, so here is your certification details, LEA. For LEA, so you have here, as always, your certification status, and you have, of course, your certification validations. This is where you will be able to determine if you have fatal errors or warnings that you still have to look at anyway. And then this is where you also review your reports. The ones on the left side are your aggregate reports. These are the key reports that has to be reviewed before you are able to certify. Okay. So even before reviewing reports, you first have to make sure that all validation fatal errors are resolved first, because it doesn't make sense reviewing reports when you have fatal errors, because what happens when you review reports and but not resolve errors? Can anyone um, provide any? You cannot certify. That's right, Beth. And also some of the data in the reports, actually the reports may be incomplete because some of those records have not been accounted for because they were triggering errors. Okay. Okay, so now let's first see let's just demo how to resolve errors. So here are our common errors. This is our test environment. So first on the list is Cert 4. This is basically your students missing their race and ethnicity. So Cert 4 will always trigger if there are any records that are missing race and ethnicity in CalPADS. It will trigger in Fall 1, it will trigger now on Fall 2, and also in end of year. So make sure that those records are corrected. So to correct this, just click on Show for our new users. And of course, Scroll down and you will see those SSIDs causing those cert4 errors. So let's copy one. What I'll do is just open a new window of CalPads and paste the SSID here. So this student is triggering a cert4 Marvel Captain because there's demographic information, race and ethnicity is missing. Okay, so these are the fields you have to populate. You have to indicate the ethnicity indicator if the student is Hispanic, and then you have to indicate this as well, ethnicity missing indicator, race code missing indicator, and the specific race code. So this should always be populated. Once you populate this information, you should be able to um, clear the error. And then of course, since this record was in 1819, you can add a new record here in CalPads. Okay. Okay, so that's how to resolve a cert4. I'm guessing you guys already had experience doing that in Fall 1. So let's now move on to the specific Fall 2 cert errors. Let's start with cert 47. Okay, cert 47. Teaching staff assignment missing. Cert 47 is just stating that you submitted a course enrollment for a teacher. You assign a teacher seed in that course. However, that teacher's staff assignment is missing the designation at that specific school. Okay, so that's just a simple explanation of the CERT 47 description. However, if you want a full description of the error, just scroll down at the bottom of CalPads and click on the error list, okay, which we already have here. This is the CalPads error list version 11.7 as of January 28. So just look for Fall 2 certification. Look for CERT 47 here. It says here, a course section includes a seed for which there is no valid teaching assignment information. Okay. Let's go back here and look at that error. So who is this teacher causing a CERT 47? So it appears this teacher has a course. So this is Peter Pepper Piper. Okay. So it says based on the error list, you have to look at the course data versus the SASS data. So let's do that. So it appears that for 2019-2020, which is the current year, the staff was assigned to a course at Emerson Elementary. Okay. So now we compare that to the staff assignment. It turns out that you haven't submitted a staff assignment record for this staff member. So maybe you suffer when you submitted your files, you submitted your SDM first, and then went ahead, posted the courses, and then waited a day, and or even submitted your staff assignments but didn't post the file. Okay, so those are scenarios where you miss this step, where you trigger CERT 47s. Okay, so how do you resolve this error? You just have to assign the staff to Emerson Elementary. Oh, here, okay. You just have to assign a teaching assignment to the staff member at Emerson Elementary for 2019-20. So you do that by adding a new record and clicking on looking for Emerson Elementary here. You can either assign a 27, 12, or 26, any of those teaching classifications. And then, of course, you assign a job classification of 100 and validate. And then post. Once that's posted, you just have to wait for a new snapshot to be generated to clear for Cert 47. Okay. Let's move on to the next error, which is Cert 48. This is the opposite of Cert 47. This error states that you submitted a staff assignment record. However, you didn't submit either a course record to associate the teacher or a staff non-classroom job assignment code. So, so essentially you're saying that the teacher is employed, the teacher is maybe an admin, or a staff is maybe an admin, he may be a teacher or a pupil service. However, the actual work was not indicated. Okay, so let's click on show for Cert 48. While we're waiting for CalPads to hurry up, when does Cert 48 normally happen for those seasoned users in our training today? When does Cert 48 happen most often? Quiet. It's been quiet. Okay, so let's have some scenarios here. Let's first look at one seed. It says here, let's copy this seed. Beth has a good scenario, itinerant teachers. That's correct. So let's copy this one seed number. Let's search for the staff information here. And let's see why this staff member is causing a Cert 48. So we have here Zion Combs. Zion Combs was reported with a staff assignment record. So we claim that Zion is a teacher at CSIS Training Berkeley High. So now CalPAS expects us to report either a non-classroom job assignment if he does not have a class to instruct to, maybe he's just a supporting teacher, or if there's a class he is assigned to on census day and he was a permanent teacher, we need to report the course, of course. So unfortunately, we don't have a CRSE record reported for him at that particular school in the current academic year. So you have to report the course. So now let's just click add new record to report his course. And as I'm trying to populate the fields here, what for those who already are doing data population, is this a correct representation of the courses, course fields? I'm still seeing course content here with a 154. That is weird. Where is my standard grade level range? Where is my other fields? This seems wrong, right? It does seem wrong because this is not the current fields that we have for 1920. So you would wonder, okay, this is weird. Where can I put my standard grade level range? It's still showing course content. So before sending in a ticket, you could look at the known issues list in CalPads. How do you do that? Let's first go back to CalPads and go to admin, oh no, help, and click on the user manual. Okay. In the user manual, you have here the reference section, which brings you to the daily known issues list. Let's see if this list has that error. CRSE. There you go. It says here, this is a known defect. So basically, 5282, PM 5282 shows that the CRSE on the staff detail section is still showing the old codes. So this, what I'm doing right now is just a way of troubleshooting errors for those new to CalPads. So it's important that before sending in a service ticket, check the daily known issues list. That way, you know if a functionality is a defect or not, is defective or not. Okay, so let's go back to this record. So since I can't populate the necessary updated information, I have to click on cancel. And so where can you add another course? Where is the other section in CalPAS where you can add another course? Okay, the answer is go to online maintenance. If you're doing this online, course data, okay, let's basically zoomed in. Okay, course data, and then just add the courses here. Okay, so you can do apply filters, and then locate the course or local course where you want to add the staff member in. If you can, if it's not here, then just click on add new course and then manually add those information in. Okay, so that's for Cert 48. So Beth mentioned something about itinerant teachers, which is also a key element here. So Cert 47 or 48 normally happens to itinerant teachers because sometimes um, you really don't need to, the teacher might have a staff assignment, you're 27. However, even if they're 27, you still have to identify if they're if they have a non-classroom job assignment code, which you report in the staff assignment, or you have to assign them to a course. Okay, so for itinerant teachers, you either submit a course or assign them to a non-classroom job assignment code. So let's do another one, which is, let's just assume this is a staff member who's not teaching a course. So how do you report the staff assignment, non-job assignment code? So we just go here, click on open, and you have the option to indicate up to 7 non-classroom based assignment job code for a staff member. So let's say, okay, Zion Combs apparently was not the teacher of record on census day. He wasn't the teacher of record. So, but then you also have to report them as a teacher, right? And give them a non-classroom job assignment. You can assign a day-to-day substitute teacher permanent employment if that's what he does. Okay, 6014, and then validate. And CalPad should accept that. Okay, post, and that should resolve the error. Okay, so next is, let's skip some of this first. Let's go to Cert 84. No staff assignment for demographics. The Cert 84 normally happens when you submit a staff demographic record for a staff member, but there's no staff assignment reported for the current academic year at that district. Okay, so this normally happens for staff members who are no longer employed but have an active demographic record, or for staff members who are on leave and no staff assignment indicating that they are on leave at the district. So, or simply put, maybe you didn't submit your staff assignment file yet. Okay, so here's one scenario. Let's copy seed number 083 here for cert 84. Let's go to their seed, search their seed, and it's Peter Pepper Piper. Okay, so if you notice here, okay, let's just zoom out a little bit to open, to show the demographic information. So it appears here that this staff member still has an active demographic information, meaning it's still active. There's no indicator that the student left or the record should be closed. So if, let's say, the staff member is no longer employed by the district as represented by this staff member, what do? You just basically click on the current record that's open, which is probably from last year's, and then close out the record. How do you close out a demographic record? I mean, how do you exit the staff member from the district? Any add effective end date? Not quite that. Okay, okay. You guys are leading me there. Someone says there is an exit date at the bottom. Okay, so let's scroll at the bottom. And yes, there is an exit date. It's the employment end date. When closing out a staff demographic record for a staff member who is no longer employed, just populate this, the employment end date. Do not populate the record effective end date, because when you do this, this will only prompt the system to create a new demographic record. And so it puts you on the loop for a cert 84 again. So clear this. This should never be populated, but this should be populated. Okay, employment end date. So let's say this staff member left after the 18-19 year, and then validate and then post. Okay, or if the staff member was still here in the current academic year, then you can just exit them before census day or when they left. Okay, that's how to report or clear a cert 84 for a staff member who is no longer employed. But for a staff member who is still employed, what do you do? But let's say the staff member was on leave. Let's say we have a permanent teacher who is on leave. Let's assume this is a permanent teacher. What do you do? So we go to staff assignment, and I tell this staff member, or tell CalPAS that this staff member is still employed by the district but is on leave. How do we do that? You just click on add new record here, and then identify the school that they are in. Let's see, Emerson Elementary. Job classification should be, let's wait for CalPADS to refresh. There you go. Teacher. Non-classroom based assignment code should be, where's that? Employee on leave 6018. And what should be the FTE percentage? That's correct, Eva, 0. Okay, 0 for FTE percentage. employee on leave would be the job assignment code, validate, and post, and then wait for a new snapshot, and that should clear your Cert 84. Okay? Okay, so we have here another one, which is Cert 77, no student course section data for a primary enrolled student. So this triggers when a student is primary enrolled on census day, so meaning the student is enrolled at the district on census day, but no SCSE record were submitted for that student. So how do you resolve that error? Okay, just submit the SCSE file, and this normally happens for most LAs saying, okay, I have like 1,000 Cert 77s. What is causing this? Well, you just didn't post your SCSC file, or you forgot some of those students. Okay, so also maybe the student might have exited before census day, and you just failed to exit their enrollment. Okay, those are the key elements. Either the student may have already exited before census day, but you did not close their enrollment record, or you just failed to submit their SCSE record. Okay, so either submit a file, or if you want to add just a specific student, you just go to the course data and then locate the course. Let's say this one. And then at the far right, there's a student course section. Click on that and then add the student in. When is online maintenance necessary? You know, if you want to add just a few students, when and why? Okay, that's correct, to update one student. Why? Because it doesn't make sense to submit an entire SCSE file for your school to account for the replacement process rule, right? So, because if you just submit one SCSE record for that particular school, for that section, then chances are CalPAS will overwrite your records just because of one student that you submitted for, right? So if it's just minor add-ons, do online maintenance instead. Okay. And then we also have Cert 79, no enrollment for course section. This normally happens for those itinerant staff members. Okay. So you reported the teacher with a course. However, you did not submit an SCSE record to account for the students to that course. Why? Maybe you just didn't post the records. But for some scenarios that really do not require a student to be submitted, like let's say elementary PE, pull out, push in, do you have to account all of those students in that class? You don't have to. For those students who are pre-K, receiving special ed services, or special ed, then since you only submit an SCSE record for students KN to 12, how will you account for those students? You don't have to. And so your dilemma with your Cert 79. So there's one way to do that, one way to resolve this. If you really need to submit SCSC, of course, then you submit the SCSC files for those students. Now, if you don't have to account for those, maybe you didn't report the staff member correctly in the staff assignment record. Okay. So let's say this one triggered a Cert 79. Let's look at Cert 79 here, 26, 79. Cert 79. Okay, we have here one staff member. Okay, 15. Let's look at his record. So this staff member is a pull-out, push-in teacher, maybe providing EL services, maybe an RSP teacher, maybe just a PE teacher. In that scenario, these scenarios, okay, you have here, let's say this one, here. So let's just assume this is an RSP teacher providing services for pre-K students. Do you have to account for the SCSC file? No. So to resolve that scenario, go to assignments. Just make sure the job classification is a 27 instead of a 12 or a 26. Okay? As long as you mark this as a 27, you should be okay. Okay? Now, if it's a 12, then you have to account for the students. Okay? That's the only way to resolve a Search 79. Either submit the SCSC records if you need to account for students. If not, then change this to a 27, the staff assignment job classification code. So those are some of the common fatal errors that you will encounter and need to resolve before even reviewing your reports. Okay. So there's one more here. Warning, language instruction program setting missing for English learner. So this is just a warning this year. However, you still have to make sure you account for this, okay? Because even though the LIP is just a warning this year, the LIP information will be used to account for Title III reporting as well. Okay? So those are some of the fatal errors and how to resolve them. So let's now move on. Let's say you've cleared all the errors. The fatal errors are now 0 and your warnings could also be 0. Now you go down here and review your aggregate reports and also the specific student list reports, which Nate will be happy to discuss with us. So Nate is just situating himself right now. So let me just check if there are any cert error questions that we need to answer. Okay, no one had some cert error questions. What if a teacher was there on census day, went out on maternity leave and is coming back soon? They're still the teacher on record, so you report them. So for those teacher on record, you submit a non-classroom job assignment code of 6018 for their leave, if they're on leave, and then you assign their seed to the course. Okay. Okay, I think Nate is ready.
I am ready. I was just getting a duplicate audio message because of your mic.
You're on mute.
I am on mute? Am I on mute?
Yeah.
How the heck?
Yeah.
You got me, Kyron?
Yes.
I can hear you,
think
Nate.
there's a little tingy because of your mic, or no? Okay.
We can hear you. Okay.
So, I just want to thank Kyron for going over the examples for us. It's a great time that we know this is probably well in advance of many of you resolving certification errors. So when you get to that point, and if you can't recall the examples that Kyron provided, or they're just not ringing true to your data, there are many scenarios, many reasons why these errors trigger. There's not just one. And so at that time, if you would just submit a ticket to the service desk, and the link is at the bottom of the slide, and we will all be willing to help you. You could either contact your CSIS monitor or submit a service desk request.